So my name is Bryan Caron. I'm the Director of Operations and Development specifically for a project at McGill called NeuroHub. And you might be wondering, why am I here about NeuroHub when we're supposed to be using CBRAIN? I'll get to that in a second because CBRAIN is a component of the NeuroHub ecosystem. So I'll just take a couple minutes to introduce you to, what NeuroHub is, and indicate to you that it is what's called an integrative platform in an ecosystem. So it's not just one tool; it's an ecosystem of tools. And you'll be very shortly, with the good help of Natacha and other colleagues of mine, get some hands-on experience as a continuance of what you saw before in terms of working with the BigBrain data. So prior, you were using the command line, you were using the DataLad through the notebook. Here, you're going to see what was mentioned already in the opening introductory remarks, I would say the graphical user interface element of this. And as I mentioned, NeuroHub is a collection of software tools in that ecosystem that provides not only things such as a very powerful and easy use user-friendly interface, and you'll see very clearly what that interface looks like for the CBRAIN side, but also on the back end, we are also able to integrate other more, I would say, tools that are advanced for highly structured data based upon something called LoRaS, which we won't get into for this, but it's part of the important part of the ecosystem. And what we do with this ecosystem of tools, where LoRaS and CBRAIN are very mature technologies, is we're able to provide access to users in 4 conceptual areas or spaces, as we call them. So that includes not only the user portal, where people can actually interactively work with the data that they're involved in the processing, so from a web-based interface, but we also provide the ability to manage and operate on those data sets. You can do sharing, you can do uploading, downloading, organizing your data specifically to your projects and define who can be members. We're also able, through this user interface, to define interactive computing environments based upon things like JupyterHub, which I won't talk about here, but we also have that element. And what you're going to be seeing today in terms of the processing factory or the orchestration side for running large-scale big data analytics on the data, and that specifically will be what you're seeing and experiencing today within CBRAIN. And the benefit of this whole ecosystem is that not only lets researchers upload and work with their data and their collaborators for their own particular data, it also lets researchers get access to very highly specialized and curated data sets, such as what was shown already in the COMP for the Canadian Open Neuroscience Platform, but also in our particular case with NeuroHub, at least for the McGill research, because it's there specifically through an arrangement we have with the UK Biobank, which people might be familiar with. So one way of kind of just an analogy I like to use, and you can use this as just an understanding of what I mean by the ecosystem of tools, is people are already familiar with the different tool sets that are available to them within the suite of Microsoft Office tools. So where you have different applications, but then even though they have different purposes and have different objectives, they do have a form of integration where they can actually work together. And it's the same idea within the NeuroHub space in that ecosystem, where we have tools not only for the big data processing, such as CBRAIN, which you'll experience upcoming, but also more for data management and curation, such as LoRaS. And then also from that, the data exploration, which are, again, based upon things like JupyterHub and using tools such as notebooks and things like that. And when we're moving within this space of NeuroHub tools as part of the overall funding of the elements of the project, to incorporate also things such as publication. So there's projects which I won't go into, but things, if you look up NeuroLibre and Aperture, we want to get into also make sure that that publishing phase of the cycle of research activity is also supported within the NeuroHub space. So just a quick shout out to the team. Just everyone here, this is representation of just the people who have really worked very hard to bring this to fruition for the last decade, for at least the CBRAIN and the LoRaS side, and continuing forward for NeuroHub. This is part of what's called an overall initiative called Healthy Brains and Healthy Lives, which is an $85 million project funded by the Canadian government specifically, that is managed out of McGill, and a core component and core infrastructure that is NeuroHub. And that, even though the name does say neuro and the name does say CBRAIN, it addresses needs in the neuroinformatics space, but also in other domains such as the behavioral sciences, biology, and so on. So that it's a very broad ranging ecosystem of tools that we're providing as part of the community, and we'll continue to move that forward. So with that, without further ado, I'll pass it on to Natacha, like I said, who will carry you through the BigBrain experience in working with the through CBRAIN and accessing the data there. Again, seeing much like we saw on the DataLad side, but from the interactive user experience through the web portal on the CBRAIN.